Great. Welcome to the State House District 10 Democratic Primary Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Boulder County. My name is Josephine Porter, and I'm a proud member of the League and pleased to serve as moderator for tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. For over 100 years, we have encouraged informed and active participation in government, and we've also influenced public policy through education and advocacy. To remain nonpartisan, the League never adopts, never supports, or opposes political candidates or parties. We are pleased tonight to have as our Spanish interpreter, Rosabel Rice. The Colorado House of Representatives is the lower house of the Colorado General Assembly. The House is composed of 65 members from an equal number of constituent districts, with each district having a population of about 88,800 people. Representatives are elected to two-year terms and are limited to 4 consecutive terms in office, but can run again after a 4-year respite. The legislative session begins no later than the second Wednesday in January and lasts up to 120 calendar days. House District 10 includes most of Boulder, the city of Boulder, east of Broadway, including the University and the Hill, east to Cherryvale Road, then 63rd Street, north to Butte Mill, jogging north again to include the airport and western part of Gun Barrel. Now to the forum. The format for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have a 1-minute opening statement. We will then ask the candidates as many questions as time permits. Questions have been submitted electronically to the League by the community and reviewed by our League of Women Voters volunteer screeners. For most questions, each candidate will have up to 1 minute. However, I may expand the time to answer depending on the question. We will finish with 1-minute closing statements. Tonight's forum participants are, in the order that they appear on the Democratic primary ballot, Junie Joseph and Tina Mew. Now to the opening statements and questions. Please watch for the paddle at the 15-second mark and end when your time is up. If you're mid-sentence, when your time is up, please promptly finish the sentence so we can move on to the next candidate. For our first question, we will be for our opening statements, we will begin with candidate Joseph.
I can start now?
Start.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It is an honor to serve as your representative in the Colorado House District 10 for the past 2 years. I am filled with gratitude for the privilege of being heard as I seek re-election. Why you should re-elect me as your representative. I have worked to create a better future for all of us. In my first year as a state representative, I passed 35 bills that have directly impacted the lives of individuals and families in House District 10. Every bill I bring forward and every vote I take as your legislator moves us closer to our shared value for a just, equitable, and inclusive community. I am seeking re-election and I hope that you all vote for me. With your vote during this June, I will continue to serve you with sincerity, courage, and dedication. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
Hi, I'm Tina Mew. I'm running to represent us in House District 10. I grew up in Colorado and I have lived in HD10 for almost 40 years now. I started as a CU undergrad in 1985, and I have been here raising my own family and serving my community in Colorado ever since. My values are born of decades of deep and meaningful work in some of the areas our community cares most about. I am a PhD scientist, and I've been a middle school science educator for over 30 years. I am committed to an excellent public education experience for each student in each school, and I know what that will look like. I'm dedicated to workers' rights and long-term security because I was the president of our teachers union in Boulder and a trustee for PARA, our state pension system. My work as a board member for Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains made me absolutely steadfast in my advocacy for reproductive health care and justice. After these decades of service in HD10 in Colorado, it will be my honor to serve us at the Capitol. Thank you.
For our first question, we'll start with candidate Mew. Regarding your approach to the legislative process, what are your thoughts on encouraging bipartisanship? And how will you work with members of the other party to accomplish your goals?
So I'll start with, I am a deep believer in collaboration. I am trained because of my work with particularly our teachers union, but other groups as well, in the idea and the practicalities of consensus, of taking a big group of people and getting them all to pull in the same direction. I'm just looking at the timer, sorry. So as president of our teachers union, I mean, that's 2,000-ish people, and they're all very, very passionate about the direction that we should go. So I got very good at listening closely and with respect and curiosity and honoring all those voices. I believe deeply that everyone deserves care and respect and voice. And I think that's what's needed at the Capitol, really. And so I am from Colorado Springs. I know that our state is not just Boulder and central Denver. And so I am interested, and I have a background in everyone in our state. So that's what I hope to take to the legislature. Candidate
Joseph.
Thank you. As of today, I have passed about 35 bills, and at least about 1/3 of my bills have Republican co-sponsorship or prime sponsorship as part of that process. I remember when I first got elected, there was a retreat, and Governor Polis showed up to that retreat. And one thing that he shared with us was that we should strive for bipartisanship when it comes to our bills and legislating. And I have taken that to heart. Every one of my bills, before I find a Democrat sponsor, I seek a Republican sponsor first. If I can't get a Republican sponsor, then I go with my Democratic colleague. Because at the end of the day, the work that I do at the Capitol is not just to serve Democrats, it's also to serve our Republican who also live in House District 10 and also the rest of the state. Thank you.
The next question, and we'll begin with candidate Joseph, and we'll just alternate back and forth so you know what to expect. Do you support state control over local government zoning decisions? If so, under what circumstances should the state override the local government planning process?
Thank you. We need both. We need both. I know that housing are issues of both state and local concern. Land use reform is both a public health and environmental issue, and housing is a basic human rights. So both the state has a stake in local government. So every group has to come to the table to be part of the conversation. The state cannot legislate on its own when it comes to issues of housing, because we know that city councils and municipalities are closest to the people. They have to be there at the table. So it's a very synergetic relationship that they play a very, very important role together. So for me, again, when it comes to land use policies, the state has a role to play, so does our municipalities and also counties as well. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
So I will refer to last legislative session. There was a big land use bill, 213, we refer to it as. And that land use bill had sweeping, overarching state mandates about what zoning should happen, zoning changes for the entire state. It had the support of only one mayor, and that was our own mayor in Boulder. It had no other support at all. And Representative Joseph voted in favor of that. And so that was a very big, overreaching, state-driven carrots and sticks all the way kind of approach to zoning. And so I'm not for that at all. This session, it was chopped up into pieces, and then it went back to communities for input. And so that's a better way to do it. And so I do support local control. I think it's very important.
Thank you. The next question, and we'll begin with candidate Mew. What role should the state play in providing funding for affordable housing? What sources should be tapped to fund affordable housing?
So this could be a little controversial, but here I am. I live in Boulder. I'm fortunate to live in Boulder, and I have been I'm a fan of the legislation that has already been passed, Proposition 123, to make some inroads in affordable housing around the state, and to grant municipalities some funds to do some of this. I actually would like to see some sort of real estate transfer tax. So because I live in this community, and I was fortunate enough to buy a home a long time ago, I have really earned a lot of equity. And I, as a homeowner, would like to think about when I sell my home, the immense profit that we're all making in Boulder. Maybe there is some part of that we give to affordable housing projects, because we are fortunate to live here, and we are profiting because our community is what it is. So we should give back. Yeah, thank you.
Candidate Joseph.
Can you please repeat the question? Thank you.
Yes, let me pause this. The question is, what role should the state play in providing funding for affordable housing? What sources should be tapped to fund affordable housing?
Thank you. The ways that we support affordable housing, again, we've talked about land use changes. We've also talked about part of it is incentives. I have supported bills that incentivize affordable housing in the form of tax credit. As the Vice Chair of Finance this year, one such bill that I supported was House Bill 24-1434, which is a tax incentive to provide affordable housing to the tune of almost $120 million over a 6 years period. As many of you already know of the grand opening of the Bluebird on Wednesday, which is developed by Element Properties. Bluebird includes 40 units of supportive housing for individuals and those living in homelessness. So again, I believe in tax credits through SHAFA in order to provide more housing, affordable housing to community members.
The next question, and we'll begin with candidate Joseph. The question is, what is your position on the state controlling the approval of accessory dwelling units, the AUDs? Sorry, hold on for a second. Let me get this thing started here. There we go.
Yes, thank you for that question. This is a very, very similar question to the earlier question when it comes to land use. ADUs is just a tool. It's a tool to create more housing in the community. People have different views when it comes to how do we create more affordable housing in the community. Some believe the more supply that we have, the more affordable housing we will have. So again, it's a balance. The market will not regulate itself. We have to regulate the market. And ADUs is just one tool in our toolbox. And this year we did pass in a bill to create more housing. We've passed multiple bills to create more housing, and one of them was an ADU bill, and I did support that bill as well. And again, the idea is that we want to ensure our community members have more access to housing, and ADU is just one such tool. Again, people can create a granny flat to provide more housing for family members or other people in the community. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
So I think this is an interesting example. I actually am a big fan of ADUs. I think it's a gentle way to do infill in the communities that exist. But I was talking to some of our elected officials in Boulder about this very thing. So in Boulder, we had a policy around ADUs that said, if you'll build an ADU and guarantee that it is affordable, then you can stretch the regulations a little bit. Maybe you can build a slightly bigger one, right? And if you're willing to do that, you have some relaxed regulation around what you're willing to build. And so many people, accepted those parameters and built affordable ADUs. So the state passed this ADU bill, and, I'm a fan of ADUs again, but this sort of trounced this plan that Boulder had about creating affordable ADUs. So in that sense, I again like local control, and you have to listen to the community about how best to implement these policies.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with candidate Mew.
Mhm.
Many are concerned with the rising cost to rent in Colorado.
Mhm.
How about repealing state prohibition on rent control and letting city councils decide?
Yeah, I mean, I am a fan of this. I think that, I don't know if I would call it rent control or rent caps or rent stabilization. There are a variety of ways to tackle this. And I do think that without some form of rent stabilization, we will just continue to price people out of our communities. And so I am a fan of that. And as I am preaching, I am a proponent of local control. And so putting this in the hands of municipalities, I think is a great idea, so that they can stabilize rent in a way that makes sense for their community.
Candidate Joseph.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure. Let me cancel this. The question is, many are concerned with the rising cost to rent in Colorado. How about repealing state prohibition on rent control and letting city councils decide?
Thank you for that question. Last year, the bill to eliminate the prohibition on rent control came before the legislature, and I support it. If it comes back again, I will continue to support it, because at the end of the day, we need to regulate the market. But ultimately, part of the conversation is that there are different interests at the table. Last year, the bill did not pass, and it was not introduced again this year. So we have to just constantly be thinking on how we want to protect our community members from eviction. Last year, I passed House Bill 1120 to ensure community members who are on TANF and on SSI and SSDI remain housed. And the idea is that for those people who are on those type of government benefits, they receive some form of mediation prior to an eviction. And if they're evicted, or if the eviction process will continue after the eviction, after the mediation, is that they afforded extra time to move out of the property. So again, the idea is that we want to make sure that people stay housed.
The next question will begin with candidate Joseph. What legislative actions are needed to better support children and families in Colorado and to provide all Coloradans with access to basic needs, including food, housing, and healthcare? So it's asking about legislative actions needed to better support families and children and provide all Coloradans with access to basic needs, including food, housing, and healthcare.
Thank you for that question. There's a lot of work that's being done at the state capitol. Over the last 2 years, I passed 12 bills to improve the lives of children and families. And one such bill, for instance, we've expanded support for family members when they need to take time off. That's very important. I passed 2 bills as well when it comes to ensuring kids stay in school. I had 2 early childhood bills. Again, we've done a lot of work over the last 2 years since I've been at the legislature to ensure that families are protected and kids are safe. We've done a lot of work in the mental health space when it comes to education. We've passed a lot of bills to ensure that kids who have kids in school are supported and are afforded certain mental health support as well. So we're doing a lot of work at the state legislature to protect kids and families.
I'm sorry, I'm too many things I'm doing, so I'm not always giving you your 15 seconds. I'm very sorry, your 15-second notation. I'm very sorry. I'll try and be more accurate, or would you prefer me not to do it at all and just follow the clock?
Yeah, it feels a little bit busy.
It's a little too busy? Okay, well, then I'm thrilled. Thank you very much. I will put the paddles away. I'm just not that ambidextrous. Okay, the next question, we'll go to candidate Mew.
Will you repeat that, Josephine?
Yes, I will. What legislative actions are needed to better support children and families in Colorado and to provide all Coloradans with access to basic needs, including food, housing, and healthcare?
So I'll start with, I'm a huge proponent for public education funding, and I have worked for decades to improve public education funding. I think it is the key to the welfare of our students in the state and, to families and their well-being. Schools provide a lot of things. Schools are places that we feed and care for our kids. So I think that is central to this question. I'd also like to see more money spent on mental health facilities. We have a crisis, especially among young people, mental health crisis, and I'd like to see more spent there. I'd also like to see healthcare supports, and of course, increased access to reproductive healthcare for everybody, all of our vulnerable populations. And these are all things that will help families and our children in the state.
The next question, and we will start with candidate Mew. What do you consider a fair and equitable tax system for Colorado? What changes would you make in the current system, including revenue sources?
Wow. A fair and equitable tax system for the state. Okay, so first of all, I'll just start with the observation that we are in a funny position here tax-wise because, our residential property taxes have been perhaps artificially low. Well, artificially, I don't know. They've been low because of the Gallagher Amendment, because of the whole balance between residential and commercial tax rates. And so we're in this tricky period where people feel like their residential tax rates are just growing, and that's going to exacerbate our affordability problem too. And so we do need to do something about the rapid rise in residential property tax rates. I also would like to do some things so that our tax system is not as regressive. I think I would like to go to a more progressive system than we currently have.
Candidate Joseph.
Thank you very much for this question. This is a very, very hard question. I sit on finance, and I also is somebody who has attended at least 2 to 3 different tax policy conversations outside of the state of Colorado. It's very, very difficult to solve our tax problem because of Tabor, because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. Again, I do believe we need to, some community members believe we should get rid of Tabor. Other community members believe that we should keep it because it's a matter of accountability and transparency. However, there's a lot of services that we cannot fund because of Tabor. So again, we need to do something. We need reform, we need change. And one part of the question, again, this year we did do a lot of work when it comes to property tax and also income tax. We've lowered the income tax rate here in the state. So we continuously doing work. Again, we have a volatile economic system, and our tax is very complicated in the state, but we're continuously grappling with the issue in order to find solutions for community members. Thank you.
We're going to do the next question. We're going to start with candidate Joseph. Should the influx of migrants into Colorado, especially to the Denver area, be aided at the state level rather than depleting the funds of cities bearing the brunt of their costs? If you say yes, how is it best handled and funded?
Yeah. Thank you. That's a very, very complicated question. And that's a question that's it's very, very layered. So it's very hard to have a quick answer in 1 minute. But the question is migration. We need to support our immigrant population who live here in Colorado and the ones who are coming. Because at the end of the day, they're gonna come and we cannot keep them from coming. We don't have a border here in the state of Colorado. Once they pass the border, whether it's Canada or Mexico or come through this country, however way immigrants come to this country, if they come to Colorado, we have to find ways to support them. We have to use state funding, federal fundings, and we have to be very creative in finding solutions. Again, we live in society to get together. We cannot create a two-tiered system where you have, American citizens and immigrants. Again, no one will be safe unless all of us are safe. All of us is safe or safe. The teacher here can let me know. But the idea is that we all need to be safe, and immigrant population is part of our community. And also remember that in Boulder, we are losing our population and we need workers. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
Yeah, I like a lot of what Representative Joseph just said. I am proud to be a veteran of our public school system. I'll just mention again, because that is a place where we take in kids regardless of their documentation, regardless of any of that. And school is a safe haven where, again, we provide services and we wrap our arms around these families who come into our community. And so I'm very proud of the fact that we have this service for our immigrants. I agree that we can't really have this two-tiered system in our state and in our nation. And we have to be willing to provide services to any immigrants. We have to be able to welcome any immigrants who come into our borders. And I think Denver is doing a good job on that. And the state needs to fund it and give a little help to municipalities as well.
Thank you. The next question will begin with candidate Mew. Do you support the new school finance formula passed this last session? Why or why not? And are there any changes to the school funding you support?
Yeah, I don't love it. I'll just say, I mean, I'm a little torn, right? Because many districts are going to benefit from this new school finance formula, but it is a very complex thing to put together. And as Senator Fenberg said at a recent town hall, the problem here is that we're all just fighting for scraps. And what really needs to happen is we need a dedicated funding stream from public education so that we can all receive the adequate funding that we need. And in this thing that was just passed, there will be winners and there will be actual losers, not just, staying the same. There will be losers, and Boulder Valley will suffer a bit because of the new School Finance Act. But next year we'll take another crack at it maybe. And I think something better can be done. And hopefully after the adequacy study comes out, we'll be better informed about what's needed.
Candidate Joseph.
Thank you. I was at work this year when House Bill 1448 was introduced, and I witnessed the conversation. It was very, very hard. There were many communities that was not in support, and also my understanding Boulder needed change in order to get to a place where they were okay with the bill. And I was part of that conversation as well. It's been a very, very hard conversation. We know that, again, there are disparities in rural communities and also within communities. That's the challenge when it comes to education, is that even though we're a wealthy community here in Boulder, we have kids who are struggling. I did end up supporting this bill because, again, it's about equity. And through this bill, we've been able to make a lot of changes, right? We increase education funding for special ed to the tune of about $379 to $75 million. Again, the idea is that we want to ensure, regardless of where kids reside, that they have access to a good education. Thank you.
The next question, we'll start with candidate Joseph. Do you think the legislature has any role in legislating the process or parameters for removing books from schools and public libraries?
Thank you. I have a big grin on my face because I was one of the legislators who spearheaded the first bill that I brought forward was Freedom to Read, which was to ensure there was a process for school libraries. And that bill ended up dying in the Senate, and we revived a different bill, again, to ensure there is a process to regulate or put some guardrails and perimeters when it comes to removing books from libraries. Again, as a woman of color, a Black woman, I support ensuring that our community, regardless of who you are, you have access to information, and that information is easily accessible to all. And also, again, when we think about book banning, we're thinking of LGBTQ+ people, Black people, and other people of color as well. Again, a community is made up of everyone, and we want to make sure access to information about everyone is available to all. And I was very proud to spearhead that that particular bill.
Candidate Mew.
So I definitely agree with the idea that the state can put up guardrails, can make sure that all Coloradans have free access to books and media. I absolutely am behind that. In terms of legislating a process for individual districts, the Boulder Valley School District actually opposed the bill that Representative Joseph is talking about because, again, it was sort of a one-size-fits-all thing, and the processes required were going to be overly kind of laborious for our BVSD school board when we already have things in place. So if you're talking about places that are banning books and all of that, it's important to have guardrails, and the state can set those up. But micromanaging what districts individually have to do, I wouldn't support that.
Sorry, I messed up on the timer on that, but I think I got it right.
I saw it going up. It was, yeah, it was okay.
Thank you all for your patience. The next question, we'll start with candidate Mew. What improvements would you advocate at the legislature to improve mental and behavioral health support and care?
Oh, so I think that our legislature has to get serious about funding mental health and mental health facilities and all of that. And I feel like providing grants for that kind of activity in individual municipalities would be a very good thing. We are short beds. I'll just talk about our young people in Colorado. Again, I know that there is a tremendous need, and we're not meeting it. And so I think that our legislature needs to really put forth some funds for treatment. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Candidate Joseph.
Thank you. We've done a lot of great work this session when it comes to mental health support. Part of the conversation as well is destigmatizing mental health and mental health support in our community. Some of the bills that we passed this year, we expand access to behavioral health services, extending the first of its kind I Matter mental health program through Senate Bill 24001. We also created the school-based mental health support program through House Bill 1406, which set aside 2.5 million to help students enhance their social, emotional, and behavioral health. We also passed a bill to prevent overdose death in school with House Bill 1003. We also passed a bill to make it easier for school psychologists to practice in schools. And we've also passed a bill in behavioral first aid training and also expanding telehealth and mobile health. So we've done a lot of work and we still have a long way to go as well. Thank you. And I've supported all these bills.
The next will begin with candidate Joseph. What is your position on ballot proposal number 89, titled Right to Abortion?
I fully support the right to abortion. Abortion is healthcare. It's a human right. Again, there's a lot, when we're thinking of abortion care, again, a woman has the right to bodily autonomy. And I think it's Senator Warnock who says that a woman's womb is too small to have the government be involved in it, inside of it as well. And I fully agree with him. The idea is that we want women to have autonomy. We also want to protect youths. Again, in school, we want young people to have access to abortion healthcare. We also want to make sure, again, every family is different. We want to make sure that if a kid wants an abortion, that they have it, and there is no this idea of a parental notification should never be part of the conversation, because we know not all families are safe. Again, abortion is healthcare and it's a human rights issue. And also when you think about women in rural communities and women who are BIPOC, there's issues of access there as well. So I believe abortion care should be expanded to all. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
Well, I'm really excited about this, and I can talk just a little more specifically about this. So while I was on the board of Planned Parenthood, there was actually, a big push to have a state healthcare system. And we actually couldn't get behind it because of this thing in our Colorado Constitution that says that, the state can't pay for abortion care. And that was going to include, Medicaid. And so we just said, man, we can't do this, because if the state provides all the health care, then that threatens people's access to abortion care. So 89 is great because it enshrines in the Constitution the right to abortion care, and it also says insurance is going to pay for it. And so both of those things were necessary. It's a fantastic, it's sort of a dream, because we always wanted to do this. And now it seems that all the stars are aligning in Colorado and people are really behind it. And I have every confidence that this thing is going to pass in the fall. And I'm just delighted.
And this will be the last question, and then we'll go to closing statements. And we will begin with candidate Mew. What measures would you support for Colorado to deal with the climate crisis and to work toward climate resilience?
Yeah, so I think I'm a fan of community choice energy. I like Excel, actually. I mean, I have worked with Excel as a middle school science teacher, so I don't think Excel is the big bad demon here, but they do lack competition. And because of that, we're not sort of able to move toward greener forms of energy. There is lots of evidence that suggests that if you give your community choice, then your community will move toward cleaner, greener energy sources. So I'd like to see us push toward community choice energy. I would also like to see, as we move toward, I think this energy thing is the crux of it. But as we move toward a clean energy economy, I would love to take all of the people who are currently working in the fossil fuel industry with us. So I'm really committed to retooling and working with our trade unionists to make sure that the jobs for clean energy are given preferentially to those people who have been working in the fossil fuel industry.
Candidate Joseph.
Thank you. Can you please repeat the question? I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure, let me find it. What measures would you support for Colorado to deal with the climate crisis and to work towards climate resilience?
Thank you for that. Between last year and this year, I have passed about 8 or 9 different pieces of legislation when it comes to environmental sustainability and climate resiliency. And one of the bills that I'm very, very proud of is a bill that set aside about $100 million for EVs and e-bike credits. And I think that's part of the conversation as well. If we are providing tax incentives for community members to electrify, we also have to have the infrastructures for them as well. So we need to continue to build the infrastructure needed for these cars and these bikes and these homes as well. We definitely need to further regulate polluters, taxing fees on oil and gas. We did pass a fee this year. We need to continue to do that. And again, part of the conversation is just transition. We need to support, I will continue to support just transition initiatives and incentives as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up for our closing statements. We'll begin with candidate Joseph. And you have 1 minute.
Thank you. As a state representative for House District 10, I'm the only candidate who's passed 8 separate environmental sustainability and climate resiliency bills, including securing over $100 million in EVs and e-bike credits. I passed 2 bills to keep renters housed, including facilitating the process for more middle-income housing. I also passed 12 bills to improve the lives of children and families, including a bill that allows older Coloradans, 55 and older, to deduct their Social Security income from their taxes. I passed 4 bills to keep youth in school and provide greater access to early childhood education, including expanding licensing for nature-based schools. As a legislator, I will continue to advocate for our basic human rights, and including the healthcare rights of women to an abortion and the rights of LGBTQ+ community members to lead a life free from harassment and threats. Thank you.
Candidate Mew.
First, thanks to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this. I think it's a great opportunity to educate our community. There is a spectrum of progressive opinions in our HD10 community, and I want to represent all of them, not just part of them or the extremes. I want to represent all of them. I have been part of our HD10 community for a long time, almost 40 years, so I know us well. And I grew up in Colorado, so I understand our state beyond Boulder. I feel strongly that everyone in HD10, I'll say it again, deserves care and respect and voice, not just the extremes and not just part of us, but all of us. And I know how to do that, and I've done that. I know how to listen and bring people together and work collaboratively and find common ground, find new ground to move us forward together. I am running because I've lived my whole life here, a whole adult life here. I'm raising my daughter here. I love our whole HD10 community. My relational and bridge building skills are needed here and at the Capitol. I'm running because HD10 should have the choice. I offer a better, more informed, more collaborative kind of representation. Thank you.
On behalf of the League, I would like to thank our candidates for your participation in tonight's forum, and primarily for your participation in the entire democratic process. Running for office and serving as an elected official, it's very hard work, and we really appreciate your efforts. And finally, thanks to the Boulder County voters participating as viewers. It's up to all of us to make sure we respect and work to protect our democratic processes. Too many people have struggled to win these rights for us not to use them. It starts with being an informed and active voter. Before signing off, I'd like to alert our voters that tonight's forum, as well as many others, will be available at the League's website, lwvbc.org, the YouTube channel for the League of Women Voters of Boulder County, and vote411.org. Vote 411 is the League's premier voter information guide that supplies nonpartisan information on state and local candidates, ballot issues, and other questions, and much more. The resources available on Vote 411 are also available in Spanish. The League of Women Voters of Boulder County works throughout the year to help empower voters and defend democracy. If you want to lend your time and skills to encourage civil participation and engagement for all people in a nonpartisan manner, please join us. All the information you need is at lwvbc.org. Have a great evening and thank you.